How much money do you actually need to buy a property in Toronto or the GTA? This is a question that we get very, very often. And one of the most common things that we always see is people don't actually know how much money it is that you actually need to buy a property in Toronto or the GTA. I'm Bawanka with the Compass team.
And it's Safraz with the Compass team.
And today that's what we're going to be diving deep into. How much does it actually cost when you're going to be buying? We're even going to talk a little bit about what your monthly payments are going to be. But this is going to help you really get a better understanding of what it looks like when you're buying in Toronto and the GTA. Now, Safraz, you've been doing this for a long time. What are some of the common misconceptions or things that people might say or ask or even feel that a property actually costs in Toronto?
I think the biggest issue that most people have is, they assume you need either minimum 10% down, minimum 20% down. Then you hear, land transfer tax, you hear so many different numbers. And in certain scenarios, of course, they're true, right? But if we're talking about how do you get your foot in the door, the numbers are, I think, a lot more reasonable compared to, what just generally if you Google it, you'll see like a crazy number for something 500K, maybe $100,000, but you actually don't need that, just because there's so many programs and different types of items that you could take advantage of as a first time home buyer or just getting into the market, so that the hardest part is getting in.
Yeah.
So knowing your numbers is the first thing before you even look to get in, right?
Yeah. No, and we've done videos
Yep.
on a lot of these different incentives and programs that are out there. So definitely scroll through and go look at some of these videos. But you said at 10%. I've seen a lot of people say 20%.
Yeah, I've seen
Think that you need 50%. Think that you need the whole entire
Yeah.
amount cash.
Yeah.
And these are misconceptions that people have, and these are things that we want to help you just better understand how much money you actually need. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about different price points: 500,000, 750,000,
Yep.
a million, and we'll talk about 1.5 and kind of everything that you need to know in between. Um, so let's just start out with a $500,000 property. So a $500,000 property. We'll have one up here as well, and you
Just to
can
give
see
you
a
an
little
idea.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
But a $500,000 property, what is the minimum amount that somebody can put down?
I'm good at math, but I'm gonna pull out my calculator just so that we can, give you like realistic and actual numbers and not just something theoretical, right? So for a $500,000 purchase, of course, we know the minimum down payment is 25,000. So you'll need at least $25,000. But of course, whenever you buy, another misconception is you don't know what you need, right? What other numbers are involved? So there's land transfer tax, and then there's legal fees, right? So land transfer tax, especially if you're a first time home buyer, is just about $5,000, and lawyer and legal fees are about three. So just another eight. So what is that? 25 plus eight. We'll just round it up. Sometimes, especially in these situations, you just round it up a little bit just to keep it simple. So you're looking at about $35,000 to get in at a $500,000 purchase price.
Okay. So 500,000, that's pretty doable
Yeah.
for for most people, most starters. Again, we always talk about getting your foot in the door.
Absolutely.
Usually, if you're buying in Toronto, that's where you're gonna be. You're gonna be buying, looking at something that's around $500,000. Now, something that people always want to know, and maybe you're comparing it to what is rent gonna be. How much is it gonna cost you on a month-to-month basis? Now, this property that we're showing you here is gonna be anywhere between. It's probably gonna be around 2,200 a month.
To rent.
To rent.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
So now, if you're owning this property, how much is that going to be?
With property tax, maintenance fees, approximately $3,200 a month to own it.
Okay, so 3,200. So you're basically paying $1,000 a month more to own the property.
Exactly.
Okay, so um, anything else you want to talk about for the $500,000 property, or you want to move to the next one?
Let's move to the next one. As we go up, I think it gets a little more interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So keep in mind, when you're at 500,000, you only have to put down 5%. Now,
Exactly.
let's go to a $750,000 property. So with a $750,000 property, now again we're staying in downtown core. We're
Yep.
looking at a 2 bedroom, a 2 bathroom. You're getting a lot more space. You have a lot more to work with. Now, what is your? How much are you gonna have to put down? How much cash is coming out of your pocket or out of your RRSPs,
Yep.
tax free? How
Yep.
much of that is are you do you need in order to be able to purchase this property?
So again, we'll talk about just the down payment. It's 50,000, and then again there's land transfer tax, legal fees, etc. Those are the two main things: land transfer tax and your legal fees. Just so you guys know, as the purchase price goes up, your legal fees do go up a little bit, right? But we like to stick around the 3 to 4K. Shouldn't be much more than that. But all in, again, just rounding up to keep things simple, it's about $70,000, including the down payment, land transfer tax, legal fees, and some other fees, like very minor ones that will come up across your table.
Okay, so you're looking at 70,000 out of your pocket or out
Exactly.
of your RSPs,
Which is better, yeah.
and now what is your monthly cost gonna be?
So the monthly cost on this, and this is funny, like we're not this one specifically, but I was talking to my client yesterday about a very similar property, actually very close to this. So it's all in between 4,500, so 4,500 to 4,800. The reason why I say this is, naturally, whenever you're buying a condo, there's a maintenance fee, right? So the maintenance fee, in this example, it's pretty decent, but some of them are 700, 800, 900, 1,000. Again, depends on the square footage, a lot of other factors,
The
but
age of the building.
age of the building. So, I would say you're looking at about 45, let's call it 45 all in everything to own this property.
Okay, so from 500,000,
Yep.
you're going up about 20,000 in no, sorry.
You're going about 35,000.
You're going up about 35,000, so
Yep.
basically double so you're going to put down double the amount.
Yep.
But the other thing is you're going to be putting your maintenance fee is going to, or sorry, not your maintenance fee, but your monthly fees
holding costs
are going to be about like 1,000, 1,200, 1,300 more.
Exactly. So instead of your holding costs doubling, from 3,200, yeah, you're gonna be about, let's call it $1,200 to $1,300 or so more a month. But again, whenever you go from 500 to 750, you are getting a lot more space. Sometimes the space inside the unit could easily be double, right? So that's something to consider.
Yeah. Okay, so one thing that we want to let you know, so the reason it does go up that 35,000 is because when you buy at 5%, at 500,000 or less, you only have to put down 5%.
Absolutely.
But every 100,000, every dollar on top of that is at 10%. So you have another 250 that's going to be at 10%, which right away is going to equal another 25,000.
Exactly.
So now there's going to become a big difference when we switch to $1 million property. So we have $1 million property here, nice semi-detached, a big semi-detached. And one thing that people really do like about switching from a condo to a detached or a freehold property is that now you get rid of that maintenance fee.
Exactly.
And when we talk about the monthly cost, you're going to really get to see how that changes. So now you're buying at $1 million. Doesn't matter if it's freehold or condo when it comes to the purchase price.
Yep.
So what are we looking at in terms of cash that you need, minimum amount of money that you need to buy $1 million property?
So the minimum for this specific scenario is actually, if it's outside of the GTA, it's going to be even better. But if it was in the GTA, it's about 105 all in. And remember, for the 750 condo
outside of Toronto,
it's actually about 90,000.
Yeah.
So okay. Outside of Toronto, like this specific example, would be about 90K to get into this property.
So $1 million to buy $1 million freehold property is going to cost you $20,000 more. And what are your monthlies going to be?
So the monthly for this, we were talking about, let's call it 4,500 for the previous one, right? This one, you're probably looking at about 52 to 5,400 or so. 5,200 to, let's call it 5,400 on the higher side.
Okay, so close to close to $1,000 more.
$1,000 a month more. But again, we talked about from 500 to 750. Likely, you could close to double your square footage, and it's a big jump, right? You're going from 550 square feet to maybe 900 to 800. But the jump from that 750 to this, you're easily going to get like actual living space, including the basement, over 2,000 square feet. Outside of the basement, it might be like 1,800 square feet. It's a big jump.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that we always like to talk about, so people are gonna say like, why wouldn't I just get a freehold? Why would I even think about getting a condo?
Yeah.
I have to pay a maintenance fee.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of good things that do come with a condo. Number one is for sure is location.
Yeah, of course.
Majority of condos, most condos are in very good locations, and that's why so many people want to be there.
Yeah.
Yes, you're not going to get as much space, but you get other things like you get amenities included. You're going to be parking underground. You don't have to worry about shoveling snow. You don't have to clean off of your car. There's good perks that come with it, but you do have to pay for those perks, and that's where your maintenance fee is going to come in. But if you want to go farther out, if you want to get something bigger, again, you do have to maintain that home, everything you're responsible for. This is why you don't have to pay that maintenance fee anymore.
Exactly. And it's funny how you said like shoveling snow. We've had a lot of snow recently, and I just moved into my house, and it's my first snowstorm last week, and I was like, it should be easy. It was not easy. I was thinking, I'm like, I spent 4 hours that day, 4 hours total shoveling time. And I'm like, this is why people pay the maintenance fee not to have to do this. I had to clean my car that same day 3 times. Like, it's, and location, right? Like, imagine, you could, live in Mississauga, but now with a lot of people going back to work, right? 5 days a week, you have to factor a lot of these things in. That's why condos are typically in good transit line areas, right? So it is a big jump square footage, space wise, but it does come with a lot more responsibilities.
Yeah. Okay, now let's talk about a $1.5 million home, and then we're gonna have a little bit of a kicker to finish it off. But okay, let's talk about a $1.5 million home. How much money do you have to put down? One thing that I want to say is we're just gonna go off of 20%, but anything under 1.5, you only have to do, again, 500,000, 5% up to 500,000, every dollar on top of that at 10%. So from 500 to 1499 is going to be at 10%. Once you go over that, now it's going to be at 20%. We're just going to make it simple. We're just going to do this at 20%.
Yeah, so at 20%, this is a huge jump. Land transfer tax, XYZ, you're looking at about $350,000.
350,000. Okay, so it's a lot more. Again, remember, anything under 1.5 million, you can get it at your numbers are going to be a lot lower.
Yeah,
you want to do 1.49?
Yeah, so let's say if you did it at exactly 149, it's still a lot. It's 175,000 just because the land transfer is also so much.
175 compared to how much?
350.
Compared to 350, yes.
It's double.
That's a big difference,
yeah.
Right? Just for an extra $10,000.
Exactly.
So if you're somebody who's, not trying to put so much money down on the house, that means you got to for sure stay under $1.5 million.
Exactly. That's why you see a lot of these properties being bought. I've seen so many recently. It's like 1,499, 900. It's like if they went over $90, they're gonna have to put $175,000 extra down. And even if you had the money, sometimes financially it might be smart to not have to go that empty out all your investments, savings, whatever to go into it. So that's why you always want to stick out ideally under 1,499, 999.
Yeah. Okay. And what about the monthly cost? How much are the monthlies gonna be?
The monthly, with obviously it's going to be a larger mortgage, property tax being larger just because it's a larger house. You're looking at about all in $7,000.
$7,000. Okay. So let's go through all of them again and what the price points are. So at 500,000.
Yep. You're looking at about 32.
32. Okay. And at 750.
45. Let's call it.
45. And at $1 million.
$1,054,000. 5,000. Let's call it 5,500.
5,500. And
About.
at 1.5.
At 1.5, you're looking at 7,000 to, let's call it 7,200.
Okay. Okay. So now we're gonna do a one-off. We're gonna show you about a property. We actually just sold this one. And in the basement, you could use the basement as a rental, which is gonna be able to help. So this is called like a similar to like a duplex. Like there's somebody that you can either live upstairs and rent out the basement. You can have family living in the basement. But we're gonna talk about renting out the basement. So Denton, what do we sell Denton for?
You sold Denton for $1.1 million.
Okay, so $1.1 million. And how much is someone gonna have to pay for a $1.1 million property?
So 1.1, uh, with the down payment, etc., you're looking at about 100 and, because it was in Vaughan, about 110, let's call it $120,000 to get into the property, and monthly mortgage, with all the holding costs, about 5,500.
Okay, 5,500. But now, how much can you rent the basement for?
So that basement was renovated, looked nice. They were getting on average about $2,000 a month.
Okay, so 5,500. Now that becomes 3,500 a month.
Exactly.
So this is why things like this you can't normally do, and a lot of people don't know about. But now you're only going to be paying 3,500.
Exactly.
You own a property.
That's
It's a detached property, a beautiful detached property at that. You're learning how to be a landlord as well. But these are things that you want to think about. We want our clients to think about. Now you're not only are you an investor, but you're also you're a homeowner and investor at the same time.
exactly. And over the last couple of years, we've had clients who bought properties for $1 million, and they're like, "Hey, we don't need the basement. Let's rent it out." And if it's like a super large basement, sometimes I've seen basements go for. We have one client. His basement is really big. Like his basement itself is probably like 1,800 square feet. It's 3 levels of basement. That's how big the basement is. A lot of it is above ground. Don't get me wrong. At one point, like he was getting 3,000 a month. But like so of course case by case. But yeah, if you average it out, it's a good basement, decent ceiling height. It's nice and bright with a lot of windows. 2 grand. A lot of people don't use their basements. They just use it for storage. Why wouldn't you do that and bring down your cost to
Yeah.
3,500?
Now the property that same property Denton that we were talking about. Let's say somebody's hey, you know what? I want to get more ahead in life. I want to live in the basement.
Yeah.
How much you think they could rent out? How much you think
That's
they
good,
could rent
idea.
out the
A
upstairs
lot of
for?
people do it. At least 3,000. At least 3,000 a month. You can rent upstairs for.
Okay, so you're living basement 2,500. You're getting 3,000 upstairs. And again, this is just one place that we're talking about.
Exactly.
There's a lot of different options out there, but we tried to. This video was to talk to every different buyer that's in a different price point, in different phase in their life. But every buyer is different. So what we always do, the first thing that we do when we meet with buyers is we sit down and we go through our buyer process, our buyer consultation. We actually have a video out on that as well. You should definitely check it out. But with that, we're able to find out every single thing that you want. We're able to pinpoint exactly
Yep.
what your needs are, what's best for you. And then from there, it makes it a lot easier to guide you through the process.
Yeah, it's I would say even Denton, you could probably get even 3,500 upstairs. Of course, it's case by case. That was a really nice house. Like when we walked in, we're like like everything was 10 out of 10.
Mhm.
Nice backyard, 6 car parking, really, right? So, even if you got 3,500, that's 2 grand a month, and you get to own the property. Of course, some people don't want to live in the basement. I get it. I understand, but to own a property for 3,500 to maybe 2,500 at $1 million, 1.1 I think it's incredible.
Mhm. Okay, so if you know somebody who would be really interested in a video like this, share it with them. Send it to them. Let them know here's what it actually costs to be buying in Toronto. Always, if you like this video, like it, give us a thumbs up, subscribe. We love all of that. Now, Safraz, do you have any last pieces of advice or anything that you wanna add to this?
We always say, like, when you're buying real estate, especially in the GTA, it most likely is the biggest financial decision you'll ever make in your life. And there's a lot of information out there, right? You'll have people on Reddit forums, people online. You see this, that, and the other, and sometimes it overwhelms you because there's so much information. Someone will say, "Hey, you need to put 20% down." Someone will say, "Oh, interest rates are 6%, 5%." But that's why you should sit down, even if you have an idea. Like I always say, like you're a year or two out, doesn't matter. Send us a message, book a time to just. It's a free chat. Like what it's like going into the bank and just getting an idea of what you're able to do now and what you can set yourself up for when it is the right time. Have a conversation. It takes less than 15 minutes, and for the biggest purchase of your life, and you're only taking 15 minutes time out of your day, I think that's fantastic return on investment for those 15 minutes. So
Yeah.
that's what I think.
I like that you talk about the Reddit forums because a lot of people go to Reddit forums.
Yeah.
And I was speaking with somebody the other day. They're actually an Airbnb owner. He said, "You know what? There's one time I just wanted to go and look." He's like, "Yeah, people don't have good things to say about it on Reddit." I said, "Did you write anything?" He said, "No." I said, "Well, most of the people who actually own these are not the ones who are writing on that Reddit forum about this specific topic." So again, it's always do your research, find out as much as you can, but talk to a professional to just get a better understanding of it. If you want to know anything else, make sure to write it in the comments. We might do another video just going deeper into what the monthly costs look like. If you want to hear about that, make sure to let us know. But until next time, that's it. I'm Bawanka with the Compass team,
And it's Safraz with the Compass team.
and we'll see you guys on the next one.